Blackpool, January 2013. Police are alerted to a small fire in an alleyway behind the Grafton House Hotel.
What they thought they were putting out was a mannequin, but quickly identified that it wasn't. It was actually a human being.
As police investigate, a missing report comes in for 16-year-old Sasha Marsden.
As was quite standard in Sasha's life, she would call her parents for a lift, come and pick me up, and they hadn't heard from her. The natural thing then is for the parents to go, right, where was she last seen? And so they go to the Grafton House Hotel.
Police soon link the two cases and discover the brutal manner in which the victim has been murdered.
It was an absolutely frenzied attack. She suffered 58 separate stab wounds, mostly to her face, her head and her neck. There was blood everywhere as she desperately fought for her life.
You've got a young girl, she wants to look after children, she wants to make a life for herself, she's got a nice boyfriend, a good family, and somebody can just, one day, just take all of that. The nature of the offence is stuff of nightmares.
This is the story of one of the most brutal hotel murders ever in Britain.
The police lady got on the phone and I said to her, "Is my sister dead?"
Blackpool, Lancashire, England. On the night of January 31st, 2013, emergency services are alerted to a fire in the back alleyway behind the Grafton House Hotel.
An alarm had been raised because of a fire outside the back of the hotel. Not a huge fire, but something had set off smoke alarms. A member of the public there had raised the alarm, along with neighbours, to say something is burning. They then put out that fire using just basic water. What they thought they were putting out was a mannequin, essentially a shop dummy that was on fire wrapped in carpet, but quickly identified that it wasn't. It was actually a human being.
As police are notified of this shocking discovery, they are contacted by the parents of 16-year-old Sasha Marsden, who has not returned home from her first day at her new part-time job at the Grafton House Hotel.
As the hours went by and there was no word from Sasha, her parents were getting very concerned. They knew that not only would she always phone in to tell her where her whereabouts were, but she had a big do on that night. She was going out with her boyfriend. This was something she would never miss. They were increasingly more and more worried, and as darkness fell, it became very worrying for them.
When you have a case where you are with a family who are describing somebody that's missing and you have a body being found elsewhere and you're talking to officers, the senior officer will be talking to both parties along with other officers and quickly realising that this is very, very likely to be the same person. And so one of the main priorities at that point is, well, who has done this?
Police quickly question Sasha's parents to learn more about her life and about how she came to be at the hotel that day.
Sasha Marsden was a typical 16-year-old girl who lived in Staining, a small village right near Blackpool. She was always out and about with her friends, enjoyed a great social life. But at home she had a very solid family unit, very much loved by her mum and dad, and was the heart and soul of their family. And especially as the older siblings had many moved away, that she was really the youngest one and the one they loved to protect. Sasha had a dream really to be involved in childcare, and she had started a course in Fylde College, quite local to where she lived. You know, she was very, very committed for that to be her future, to be her career. And she would volunteer at dance classes at a local venue as well with children. So it was a real focus for her as a 16-year-old to look forward to a future in that area.
Sasha was actively looking for work. She'd made herself a CV and she'd uploaded it to a jobs website, and she described herself as hardworking and motivated. She said that she was keen to get on with any type of work, She described herself as organised and punctual. She said she was happy to work with customers or with members of the public.
Sasha had loads of friends, and we didn't know most of them because they weren't from the village and they weren't from school. They were like friends of friends that she'd met, and she used to get on with anyone. So she'd gone out with this girl.
This new friend had introduced Sasha to a man who invited her to the hotel for an interview on the 28th of January.
So they've arranged for her to go to the hotel on the Monday for an interview and like an induction sort of thing. I remember her coming down and obviously saying, I've got a job. I'm like, where at? Hotel. So her dad dropped her off because her mum and dad were very, very protective over her. They were literally just Sasha's personal taxi service, and their lives revolved around Sasha's social life, basically. She was a bit of a spoiled brat, and he'd paid her a tenner. Their first proper shift was going to be on the Thursday. She'd come back, everything was fine. She'd only been there a couple of hours.
Then she's really chuffed. She's got a job. She's 16 and she's got potentially a job that's part-time and fits in with everything. That would have been her focus, and her thinking would not have been, might he be a sexual predator?
On the Thursday, she went to college. She'd had a good day at college. A tutor had actually told her that she'd already passed her qualification and she was going on to the next level. To be told that you'd passed your qualification so early in the course shows how well she was doing. So it had been a really good day for her. She finished college. Her dad picked her up.
The man who had given her the job now suggested that she came to the hotel. He sent her 2 messages.
What he suggested was that she would come, but he sent her 2 messages that she had to come alone. First of all, he told her that to come on her own because he was nervous around new people. Secondly, he suggested to her that she should come on her own so that he could show her the ropes much easier.
We'd planned it so her parents didn't know where the hotel was. So he just said, it'd be easy for your dad to just drop you off here and I'll meet you there. So her dad dropped her off at Windsor's Wilder Shoes on Lytham Road. He was waiting outside and they walked up through a back alleyway. There's CCTV of Sasha walking behind him up the alleyway, and that's obviously the last images of Sasha.
A few hours go by, and Sasha's family begin to worry as they don't hear from her.
Sasha has started her shift, as was believed, at 4 p.m. And she was only due to be there for a couple of hours, so around 6, and then she was due to go to a party with her boyfriend and friends later on that evening. And as was quite standard in Sasha's life, she would then call her parents for a lift, come and pick me up again. They were reaching out on Facebook and other places where, have you seen her? The natural thing then is for the parents to go, right, where was she last seen? And so they go to the Grafton House Hotel.
When they arrived at the hotel, a man answered the door.
He told them, yes, of course she had been there. Gary had dropped her there. But she'd left hours ago, and he didn't know where she was. He hadn't seen her.
As police are still investigating both the body found in the alleyway and the disappearance of Sasha, the community of Blackpool is hit with massive fears for its safety.
When you have a murder of this kind, especially on what you believe at the time before any formal identification has been made of a 16-year-old girl in such a brutal way, you want to try and speed that process up because your priority is to find the person that did it. For the family and for Sasha, but also for the wider community as well, because, is this one person of many? Is this person on the loose? You've got to try, it's a priority to find that person. They are obviously, by what's happened, incredibly dangerous. And with the information that they had from the family about where Sasha was going at 4 o'clock and that job, with the friends as well that are being contacted to say, this is where she was going, she'd been given a job. And of course, with the locality of where that body was found, behind that hotel, the first thought of any senior officer is, right, what has happened in that hotel?
January 2013. Police are investigating both the disappearance of 16-year-old Sasha Marsden and the discovery of a body found in the alleyway behind the Grafton House Hotel in Blackpool, Lancashire.
It's a seaside town in the northwest of England, and it's a very mixed bag, really. You've got all the major tourist areas. You've got Blackpool Tower, you've got the Pleasure Beach, the illuminations in the winter, and there's a lot of visitors, but there's also a lot of deprivation in Blackpool as well. It can have a darker side.
It's world-renowned as a place where there is so much going on at night, and especially during the summer. It's a seaside town, so lots of visitors. And it also means that it has quite a transient population as well, people that come in for work during those summer seasons and often will increase the town's population considerably during that time.
There's quite a lot of drifters in Blackpool, so you get quite a lot of social problems, and with that you get drugs and you get crime, you get little bits of violence. Historically, there have been several fairly high-profile cases of young girls going missing.
Unfortunately, Blackpool does have quite a bad reputation around crime in the UK. It's one of the third highest numbers of crime generators amongst towns and cities in the UK, and 30-odd% of that is around violent crime and sexual offences. So even though it is a very popular resort and popular place to go to, it does have a sort of underlying current of probably far too much crime that it deserves.
As police investigate, they try to learn as much about Sasha as possible.
My family is just a normal family. We grew up in Bolton. There's my mum. Before she passed away, she was 56. Gary is my stepdad, but he's always brought us all up, so he's our dad. He's 52. There's my oldest sister, Gemma, then Mark, then me, and then there's Gary's son, Thomas, then Gary's other son, Alex, and then there's Sasha. I remember actually finding out that my mum was pregnant, and I was so excited, and I used to read my reading book to my mum's tummy, and I used to sing songs to my mum's tummy because I was so excited to be a big sister. She should have been a boy. She'd go out playing and she'd come back covered in mud, and what have you been doing? And it's just typical boy stuff that she was doing. She was never like, you know, little girls where they'd make a dance up, and I'd make a dance up when my friends would sing and like do this dance, whereas Sasha, she'd come back, oh yeah, we've been climbing up a tree, we've been making mud mountains, and she'd literally come back black. My mum used to always say, oh, she should have been a ladder. Sasha was a proper daddy's girl. She had him wrapped around her little finger and she got away with everything. She was a proper daddy's girl. She loved her mum. There's actually a picture that she made. Remember when kids used to make those edits and they put writing on them and stuff? And there's a picture somewhere that said, daddy's girl forever, still love my mum though. Gary's got to have that made into a phone case. 2004, we moved from Bolton to Lancaster. Sasha ended up getting carbon monoxide poisoning in that house. Then my mum got diagnosed with cancer, and it was like, do you know what, we need to just get out of there. So that was why we then moved to Blackpool.
Police, both with Sasha's family and with the body found behind the hotel, begin to communicate between the cases.
The link is then being made between officers who are with the family taking details of Sasha's disappearance, along with the officers who are now at the hotel with the discovery of a body. And of course then those questions are going to be asked to try and say, well, is this person behind the hotel Sasha?
We weren't worried until the police turned up at the house in plain clothes. So they said that they'd found a body that matched the description of Sasha, and my mum just lost her head. I wasn't there, I was at home, so I got a phone call off my mum. I couldn't even understand what she was saying. She said, I need you. And I just remember, I need you. The police lady got on the phone and just said, you know, your mum and dad have had a bit of bad news. Is there any chance you can get down here? I was like, well, I don't drive, but I'll get a taxi. And I said to her, is my sister dead? And she said, I'm not going to confirm that over the phone. I don't know what I said to the taxi driver, but I obviously said, you know, I think my sister's dead. I need to get to my mum. Because he flew from my house to my mum's house. He went through red lights. He broke every speed limit and got me there. And my mum was just pacing in the car park waiting for me. Sasha's name had got out there even though it had not been confirmed, and people were posting on Facebook. So by then, if Sasha was with a friend or out there, she'd have made contact by then, because she wouldn't have us all thinking that she were dead. I remember sitting on the floor in the front room and Gary was sat on this side of me, and I was just looking at the floor and I just said, it's like we're all just sitting here hoping that she's just going to walk through the door, but I think in reality, the fact that the police are here, that's not going to happen. And Gary just shouted at me and he said, it's not her, shut up, don't say that. So Gary and Gary's head was that this isn't happening, you know, she's going to come home, the police have just got it wrong.
The police's suspicions were soon confirmed by a DNA match, given the brutal way in which the body had been left by her killer behind the hotel.
There are forms of identification which are necessary when murders happen. But a large percentage of the time, it's where somebody comes in and formally identifies the body through facial recognition, essentially. But in this case, and it's terrible to think of, isn't it, that couldn't be made, even in that short space of time. But the brutal way and the frenzied way in which she was stabbed did not enable anybody to make an identification facially of her. Then you have to get a reference sample from Sasha herself. And the only way they could do that, sterile of the crime scene itself, was to go back to her home address and take her toothbrush.
After a DNA confirmation that the body found behind the Grafton House Hotel was indeed Sasha, police immediately inform her family.
Basically, you get told by a complete stranger, this has happened, she's never coming back, you can't see her, but this is what's happened. And it's so unbelievable, like, what he's actually done to her. It's not even like a normal murder. It's such a brutal and shocking thing that's happened to her, and you're just expected to take this stranger's word for it, and that's happened to your sister or your daughter, and you've just got to accept it and believe it, and your brain doesn't work like that. She could walk through the door now and I wouldn't be shocked.
You can see that she was a fun-loving, young, innocent young girl. She had a life ahead of her. And for it to be taken away in such a horrific way, she was doing what every parent wants their 16-year-old daughter to do, go out and get a little part-time job, earn herself a bit of spending money while she's at college. It's the beginning of adult life, isn't it? It's starting to launch and she's had it all taken away from her. It's a tragedy, and the public were understandably shocked and saddened.
After confirming Sasha as the victim, police retrace her steps to the day she met this man that offered her the part-time job.
They were in Coral Island and her friend had agreed to meet up with Minto. I don't think he made much of an impression on Sasha, because everybody that I've spoken to about him that did know him, they said he was very quiet, not very sociable, a bit of a weirdo. I don't think there was anything significant about that first time that they met.
David Minto was working at the Grafton House Hotel in Blackpool. It was owned by his girlfriend and her mother, and he was helping out, basically. To call him a caretaker was probably over-egging it somewhat. He did some cleaning, and in the summer, he acted as an extra barman. But in the down season, the winter months, he didn't go looking for work, as his girlfriend did. He just sat behind a computer screen, wasting his life on video games and particularly violent films.
He contacted her and he just sort of sent her a friend's request and messaged her like, hiya. And she's like, hiya, who are you? And he was like, it's David. And she was like, I don't know you. And he had to like remind her, who he was and when they'd met before. And then he's like started asking about meeting up, talked about this hotel that he had. So she went, what, for a job? And he's gone, yeah, for a job.
Little did Sasha know. Just a few weeks before David Minto contacted her, her friend that introduced her to him also was invited to the hotel for a job interview.
When he invited her there, something happened between them. And what she describes as being inappropriate, a sexual assault essentially, where he has tried to put himself upon her and she has rejected him. He didn't stop straight away and tried again. This girl was able to, at that point, release herself from him and make her way home as quickly as possible. And this happened just days before David Minto managed to get hold of Sasha via Facebook.
For her, going to the police might not have been an option because there was no evidence. It was him versus her, and so that doesn't produce any evidence of what he was actually doing, which was either a dry run, or it was that he was setting about to intentionally rape her, and it didn't work.
I think two things emerged from that incident. Number one, Sasha's friend was now out of the picture. She knew what he was like. Minto knew he had no further chance with her. So he switched his attention to Sasha. And secondly, he decided that as Sasha's friend had escaped, he'd make sure that the next time his next victim would not have an opportunity to escape.
He was using this hotel as a facade to basically weaponise that hotel and his supposed role in order to reel her in. And it worked.
January 2013. Police are investigating the discovery of 16-year-old Sasha Marsden's brutalised body, found in the alleyway behind the Grafton House Hotel in Blackpool, Lancashire. Their investigation leads them to look at the person who last saw her alive, 22-year-old David Minto.
Minto had asked Sasha to go there and start this job and offered her the job a few days before, but he had no power or authority to offer anybody a job. This was not his hotel. This was the hotel belonging to his girlfriend and her mother. It falls into line of what he did before with her friend only a matter of days before, that realistically that's what he's going to do again.
When the initial victim left the hotel, that left him with unfinished business. And as a sexual predator, he would have wanted to have fulfilled that even more.
He made sure that when he invited Sasha to the hotel for 4 p.m, that was a day when his girlfriend and her mother be out and there would be no one there. They would be doing the second jobs they're trying to do in a time when it was very difficult to get money in the hospitality industry. And so everything was lined up for him to bring her in. And of course then to treat her the same way that he had treated her friend, where it's very likely at that point that he makes sexual advances towards her.
He's made advances towards Sasha, and Sasha will have rebuffed him because she even had a purse on her, and in a purse she had no money, she had nothing. The only thing she had in that purse was a photo of a boyfriend. She had no interest in anybody else. So he's made attempts, made a move towards her. She said no. He had the knife ready for Sasha.
It was an absolutely frenzied attack. She suffered 58 separate stab wounds, mostly to her face, her head and her neck, which, to a layman like myself, suggests this was a huge amount of personal hatred and enmity served up by her rejection of him. So there was blood everywhere as she desperately fought for her life.
The stab wounds, one of them was so brutal that it's actually chipped the back of her skull, and the tip of the knife was bent because it'd gone so violently. And she wasn't even 5 foot tall, she was tiny. There was no need for that. She had defence wounds, she had injuries to her arms and to her hands where she tried to fight him off, and obviously she had injuries to her face from where she's tried to push him away. In that entrance, that doorway, that's where all the blood and everything is. There's a fingerprint in Sasha's blood inside of the Yale lock, so she nearly got out. The injury that killed her was the left jugular. Dragged her down the stairs and he's put her in the bath. There was a further attack in the bath. She would have been dying at this point, and as she's been in the bath, sometimes your body does like involuntary movements, so the chances are she's been jerking or something, and he's thought that she was moving again, so he's just basically that, and that's where that injury, because the blood splatter in the bathroom suggests that. His sperm was found inside her.
It wasn't clear at all at the point of when she was raped whether she was raped before or after death, which is really a shocking thing to think about.
This brutal sexual assault and murder of Sasha in the hotel is then followed by a shocking attempt to destroy the evidence.
Minto had to find an escape route for himself. Such was the blood everywhere. He had to have a major clean-up because his girlfriend was going to be back later that day.
Calm panic sets in with him because he's now got the body of Sasha in front of him. There is going to be blood everywhere. He's going to have lots of blood on himself, lots of blood over the hotel, tables, carpet, all those sort of things are going to be there. Then he's got to go into this next phase of what he feels he needs to do. And there's no plan for that with him, because his plan to lure Sasha in and commit sexual offences with her wouldn't necessarily have gone into the planning of what to do afterwards if he had then done that, because it shows in what he did with Sasha's body afterwards that there was no pre-planning around that kind of thing. This was instant panic.
He's wrapped her up. He didn't even pull her pants up. He wrapped her up in bin bags and carpet underlay and bedding, put her in a wheelie bin, pulled the wheelie bin outside and tipped her out into the back street. He used an accelerant. He aimed the accelerant to Sasha's genital area to make sure that he destroyed the evidence of the sexual assault that he'd done. Went in Started to clean up. He flushed the jewellery down the toilet, but it didn't flush. Tried to clean up, but he didn't do a very good job of it.
Not long after Sasha had been murdered, David Minto's girlfriend returned.
Minto's girlfriend had been out for the afternoon, and usually when Minto was at the hotel, he'd spend his time playing on his game console or scrolling social media. But on this occasion, she came home and he'd cleaned all around the bar, he'd cleaned the restaurant areas, he'd cleaned their bedroom, which was really quite out of character for him.
Part of what she could see was this amount of blood on him, of which he said he had a nosebleed. And she can see him, he's cleaned all the tables, they're all still wet, the carpet's poorly cleaned. But of course, shortly after this, having seen the blood on him and having seen his efforts to clean, she then goes outside with Minto to where other people have started to congregate in the alley next door. And this is because the police have arrived, the fire brigade have arrived, and something is happening there. And the two of them stand there at essentially what is the crime scene.
A neighbour to the hotel, they saw Minto. They saw him standing on the back step. They said to him, there's a mannequin on fire in there. Minto's response was really chilling. He said, mannequins don't bleed.
In light of the connection now being made to David Minto, police realise he had lied to Sasha's parents earlier that night.
Minto would probably not have expected to be confronted by Sasha's parents, the person that he had just brutally murdered and dumped in the alleyway. Did he have a plan to say, if someone comes and asks me what's happened, what do I say? The easiest thing to say, and most, coldest thing to say really, when he knows exactly what's happened, is, I don't know where she is and she's gone. And the parents at that point are then thinking, well, where is she?
The audacity of Minto to go to the front door and answer it to her parents, having just killed their daughter, was absolutely incredible. And happily lying to her parents to say that she'd safely left and that she'd gone some time ago. Really, did he think through answering the door to her parents? Did he think they were going to fall for that? I wouldn't have. And they were definitely concerned and didn't actually trust him. Their gut instincts were saying, this isn't right.
Minto displayed what I would suggest is the classic signs of a psychopath, that having carried out an absolute frenzied murder, done his best to tidy up, to try and remove traces. The police are there, his girlfriend are there, there's a commotion outside, and yet he remained almost serene through these moments, stuck to his story, never departed from the story that he'd seen her leave and knew nothing further. Seemed incredible that a normal person who has carried out this horrendous, frenzied attack would not show a single sign outwardly that they were panicking.
All aspects of the police investigation culminates as David Minto's girlfriend becomes seriously concerned about his behaviour.
Having heard about the fact that there is a body which has been attempted to set on fire and there is blood and everything else, she starts to put two and two together, and she's worried that Minto is something to do with this. And quite rightly, she calls the police. The last person that anybody knew had seen her was Minto. He had been watching what had happened in that alleyway, but I'm sure would not have hung about when the police arrived and had gone back into that hotel. But also, at the same time, Minto's girlfriend, who has seen what he has been doing, seen blood on his body, seen his poor attempts at clearing up the hotel, she called the police. So they have what they would want, is the evidence to suggest, well, somehow, somewhere, Minto is involved in this. And Minto has to be arrested straight away. And the Grafton House Hotel itself needs to be shut down as a crime scene. And in fact, what happened was Minto was arrested along with his girlfriend. And that scene, obviously at the back of the alleyway, but also the hotel itself was seized as a crime scene.
Police have their number one suspect in custody, but pressure builds as they need to act quickly.
He can only be in custody for a certain number of hours. So they're working against the clock of how long they can keep him to how long it takes to get the evidence they need from the crime scene and the body having to be removed away from that scene and then again looked at under forensic laboratory conditions.
31st of January 2013. Police are investigating the brutal murder and burning of 16-year-old Sasha Marsden's body in the alleyway behind the Grafton House Hotel in Blackpool, Lancashire. Their investigation has led them to arrest their prime suspect, 22-year-old David Minto.
They arrested him in the early hours of the following morning and also arrested his girlfriend. She was released fairly soon without charge. She had a complete alibi, she was away, and clearly had no part in Minto's plot. He had his lies and his story ready. He told the police that, yes, she had been at the hotel for an interview. He had to because the father had dropped her off. He said she had been inside in his bedroom. He had to because they'd discovered blood. But that it was her making sexual advances to him. Somehow she was throwing herself at him. How ludicrous and unlikely an option was this when she had a regular boyfriend and she was going out that night.
Just a few days after her murder, police feel they have more than enough evidence to charge David Minto.
After Minto is charged on the 3rd of February 2013, that's when even more work starts. It's now getting everything together. The murder team will be getting all the evidence around the crime scene, forensics, CCTV, witnesses, all sorts of statements, telephones, finance, bringing it all together to bring in a case to say that Minto is the person that killed Sasha. And part of you is hoping that with all that overwhelming evidence, as there was in this case, that Minto would, man up, hope that he would say that he was guilty and not put the family through what they're going to have to hear, which can be horrific for a family to hear all those different things that happened in detail.
His counsel will have advised him to plead guilty at the outset because he would get a lesser sentence and it doesn't put the family through the horrific trial. However, some people will know that you might have a better chance of getting away with it if you go to trial because it's a jury and we don't know what all of those jury members' thoughts are going to be.
Minto's ego was such that he was convinced himself that he could bluff his way out even of a jury trial. So when the case arrived at Preston Crown Court in July 2013, he pleaded not guilty to murder despite all the evidence.
And now he comes up with something which makes them even more upset about a story of what happened. And he says that when Sasha came to the hotel, she threw herself at him sexually and they had consensual sex. But afterwards, he saw her leave and he went upstairs. He then says, well, okay, what must have happened then is she must have come back into the hotel where then a random stranger has come in and frenzied attack, stabbed her to death, and that he didn't know anything about it. But then he comes back downstairs and sees this and goes into a state of shock.
His reaction isn't, I'll call 999 because clearly there's a murderer in the house because he's the murderer. So why call 999 and raise the alarm, tell neighbours, worry about your own safety. If there is someone wielding a knife or whatever weapon it might be in that hotel, you're going to actually be scared yourself. So on questioning when he's asked about that and how he felt about seeing the dead body and having this wild person on the loose that was stabbing people, he was really stumped at that question because he hadn't thought that through.
He then wraps up her body and puts her body outside in the alleyway behind the hotel. But then he denies trying to set fire to the body as well. So it's all very painful to hear when you're a family listening to that kind of, which you know are going to be absolute lies.
He referred to Sasha as it, not her, not she. Even when he was talking about, when apparently they had sex and it was consensual, he still referred to her as it. He accused Sasha of stealing that £10 on the Monday. He said he never offered her a job and that basically she was just going there to hang out with him, and obviously said, well, why did you pay her a tenner? Oh, she must have stolen it. I didn't pay her a tenner. I was like, how dare you? I know it sounds really pathetic, but I was like, how dare you accuse her of stealing? Because she wasn't a thief. You know, she was a monkey and stubborn and everything else, but she was not a thief. So to accuse her of stealing when you've stolen her life. I know his parents came on the first day. I think they listened to the opening arguments and then they didn't come back.
As the trial proceeds, forensic evidence points in only one direction.
His clothes bore her blood. There was an attempt to try and get rid of the jewellery. There was also clear evidence that he himself had sexually abused and raped her before setting fire to the body in an attempt to remove the evidence. He was the only person known to be in the hotel at that time. It could only be him.
After an extremely difficult few months, Sasha's family hope the conviction goes in their favour.
The trial of David Minto took place on the 15th of July 2013, so only about 5 months after he was charged. And it took 11 days, and on the 26th of July 2013, the jury, who were only out deliberating for a matter of hours, came back and found him guilty of the murder of Sasha Marsden. The sentence that David Minto received was one of 35 years. Now, this is 35 years as a minimum, and so he would have to serve all the way up to that 35 years before he can ask for parole. And of course, at that time, it might be refused, so he may stay in longer. Even though 35 years is a long time for a murder sentence, you look at all the circumstances around this case, and even as I do, I struggle to see how, in all the circumstances, that this isn't a whole life order.
If he did get paroled, no doubt would murder again, and I would hope that he never gets parole, especially the fact that he didn't show any remorse, and he tried within the 28 days to get his sentence reduced. So he's still poor me syndrome. Look at me, I've been locked up for this long and it's not fair. Or you've taken the life of a 16-year-old child, and that's not fair. They can never see her grow up and have children if she wanted to, or fulfill her career dreams and be part of their family, which was a massive, massive loss.
Sasha and her family have been given some justice for this brutal crime. However, they were somewhat blindsided with the sentence appeal process.
If you disagree with a sentence, whether you are the person that's received the sentence or the victim or a family member of the victim, in the unduly lenient sentence scheme, you only have 28 days to appeal a sentence that's been passed. But when you apply common sense to this, how many people who've been a victim of crime have a real understanding of the law and sentencing guidelines and what sentence should be given to what crime, and what are aggravating and mitigating factors, and what factors contribute towards getting a whole life order or another sentence? How were we to know whether 35 years is a good sentence or it isn't? We just got told by the police that's a really good sentence, that. So it's like, well, it's never going to be long enough, because in 35 years, she'd have only been 51, she'd have still had plenty of life left. So if in 35 years Sasha can come up out of the ground, then fine, he can come out, but she can't. So why should he get a second chance at life when she doesn't? We were told it was a good sentence. Keep your heads down because he can appeal, and you don't want to give him any reason to appeal. That was the information we were given. We were never told that we could appeal, and I'm not bad-mouthing the police. I'm still friends with our FLOs now, so there's no blame aimed at them. We just weren't told that we could appeal his sentence.
Because of this appeal process, Sasha's brutal murder is not the end of the pain David Minto wishes to inflict on her family.
He appealed, and his grounds for appealing were that it wasn't premeditated murder because he only planned to rape her. So he got an appeal in the Royal Courts of Justice in London, where we had to trek down to London to watch this appeal to hear him say, well, it wasn't premeditated murder because I only planned to rape her. And he was allowed to appeal outside the 28 days as well, because he had some mitigating circumstances or something where he couldn't submit his appeal in time. So he got like an extension to submit his appeal later than the 28 days, but we're not allowed that. That's not extended to victims and the families, that's only for the defendant.
To try and make this process better for the next family of a victim of a violent crime, Sasha's family want to pass what they call Sasha's Law, which would extend this appeal process for grieving families more than 28 days after a conviction.
Sasha's Law was Katie and Gemma's dream and their mum's dream. They really wanted to close that loophole because in that 1 month window, you're not going to be in the headspace to do that. You might not even know about it. So Sasha's Law would actually be an excellent law to pass. It didn't get enough petitions before her mum died, unfortunately, but they are still campaigning and there's still a lot of work being done by both Gemma and Katie to try and make changes.
My mum wanted the reassurance that the man that killed her daughter was never going to get out of jail. Because he killed Sasha, he's locked up and he should be locked up forever. My mum's feelings on that were, well, because Sasha's dead, he's locked up, so he can't hurt anybody else. So actually Sasha has saved other people because she's lost her life, but it's meant that he's locked up. If he gets out and he hurts somebody else, Sasha's died for nothing.
Police can now reflect on this brutal tragedy.
As a senior investigating officer, and you go to a number of crime scenes, probably thousands of crime scenes over your career, and this particular scene is incredibly brutal, and it's one of those cases that really, sticks with you. I think, the officers that dealt with it at the time, it would never leave them. The ambulance crews that would have got there at the time, the fire brigade, those witnesses, it would never leave them because it was so brutal towards a pure, innocent 16-year-old girl who essentially is a child.
A case like this does stay with you. The injustice of it. You've got a young girl, she wants to look after children, she wants to make a life for herself, she's got a nice boyfriend, a good family, and somebody can just, one day, just take all of that. The nature of the offence is stuff of nightmares.
A 35-year sentence is a long sentence. The police will have definitely seen that as a win. However, he's still going to get out relatively young if he manages to get out. With my knowledge of so many cases, these stalkers, perpetrators, predators, they don't change in prison. They'd need lots and lots of one-to-one work in order to try and make any progress. And there simply isn't the money. Our prisons are also overcrowded. Mental health support isn't there. There is a lot going on around the country to try and change this and to start to work with perpetrators. But a perpetrator like this, I think, is beyond redemption.
Sasha's family can now begin to heal and try to keep her memory alive.
She's just missed every single day. You can't actually put into words how, just little things and big things she's always missed. Every Christmas you think, she should be here. Every time I look at my little boys and how much she'd have loved them. Guilt that I've been able to have children and she's not. They did an award in Sasha's memory, and it's for people that demonstrate the qualities that were important to Sasha. Basically an award for being a good friend and supporting their friends and the peers. They've now got an award for it in Sasha's name at the college, which is nice. And I just hope that her and my mum are together and that heaven's real and that at least they're in a better place because this world is horrible.